We are 2 games into the 2025 season for the Auburn Tigers, but is Jackson Arnold the best version of himself yet? Welcome on in to the Auburn Express, powered by the War 4. I'm your host, Mike G. Turn us on, turn us up, we'll turn it out. I'm here with my good friend Taylor Davis. As I've mentioned before, Taylor has made the absolute insane decision to join us every single week here on the show to talk Auburn Tigers. So that's what we're going to do here, Taylor, on today's show. We're going to talk about the Tigers, the number 24 ranked Auburn Tigers, and if they are ready for SEC play. And is this the best version of Jackson Arnold right now that we've ever seen? Let's start at the top. They slid him just inside the top 25 at 24. It felt like after Baylor, most people were, well, I'm not so sure. And then Auburn went out and handled business, did not play with their food last week versus Ball State. So they got a top 25 ranking. Missouri sliding in right behind the Tiger, the fake Tigers sliding in behind the real Tigers at 25 there. But talk to me about this Auburn team. They're in a very different position this year, 2 games in, than they were last year. Seems like there's a lot of hope around the program, and I think people are starting to let themselves believe in Hugh Freeze's squad.
Everyone does it very reluctantly as an Auburn fan, but you always do have a little bit of hope, and honestly, I think that hope has been justified or confirmed a little bit even through 2 weeks. And obviously starting with a team like Baylor and performing the way they did, I think there's reason for hope. And like you said, I mean, unfortunately, people are getting caught with matchups that they very much should have won when you look on paper. I'm looking at you, Florida, and perhaps we're looking past it a little bit. So you didn't want to see Auburn seemingly having any sort of game hangover after the Baylor game, and I don't think we saw that. And there's reason to feel really good about this Auburn team, and it does start with Jackson Arnold. I think, to your point, being at this point 2 weeks into season last year, you didn't feel this comfortable. You didn't feel this much hope. And the quarterback position has been one that made you hold your breath for a while at Auburn. And I think Jackson kind of reinvigorated that position a little bit. And I think for Auburn fans, specifically me and the college years that I had, an electric quarterback brought success at Auburn. So to have a guy like Jackson playing with the edge that he is, he's not just being efficient, he's got a bit of a swagger to him, I mean, we can do without the little TikTok dances, but I digress. But I think having the energy brought back in there and feeling like this guy has the ability to really manage it. I know that's such like an easy phrase, but it does. And I mentioned last week with you, he does seem to have a bit of an internal clock and he's processing very well. Now, look, his toughest tests are still on the horizon. So you do still have a very honest viewpoint of it all, that there is further to go. I think that his completion percentage and how that has gone so far is great, but we haven't necessarily seen the explosive plays. There's still elements to it that haven't clicked. And it's not that you don't have the firepower to do it with guys like Cam and Eric Singleton, of course. So I think there's further for him to go. And I hope that it is on display a little bit more this week, because South Alabama is definitely a tougher opponent than Ball State. So you want to see another step forward taken before what actually could end up being one of the toughest tests of the season set up for week 4.
To the Tigers, who calls the games alongside your podcast partner Jason Campbell, told
Cam.
South Alabama is going to represent a tougher test for Auburn than Ball State did. Now, through 2 games, this Auburn Tigers team is absolutely on fire. First, 65 yards rushing allowed versus Baylor, and then 65 yards total allowed versus Ball State. So defensively, Auburn's not giving up a ton, but the questions will remain about Auburn offensively. Now, you referenced Jackson Arnold. I asked the question, is this the best version of Jackson that we're seeing here a few years into his career? I saw something on Saturday that we haven't seen a lot. Now, I appreciate your comment about when Auburn's been able to find a quarterback, it's been like championship time. And you talked to Jason a lot. I was on campus holding the camera for every single practice that he had in 2004. And I can tell you, those guys were different. But him and
Yeah.
Courtney Taylor developed this like psychic connection.
Yeah.
And I saw something similar to that on Saturday with Cam Coleman and Jackson Arnold, where Cam was on like a comeback route. It wasn't the way the play was designed, but he just came back. The announcer noted it, that he came back to the football for his quarterback, and Jackson put it right there.
Nice.
12-yard gain. And I thought to myself, I was like, well, we haven't seen that in quite some time here at Auburn. Could that be a sign of things to come? Well, Jackson Arnold was 24 of 28 on Saturday.
Yeah.
He is second in the conference in completion percentage. It's not always about how many yards you have, but it's about the yards per attempt and how efficient you are with each attempt. Right now, Jackson Arnold, no interceptions, not a single turnover on the season for Jackson. So super efficient, and he's looking pretty good, Taylor.
Yeah, honestly, and it's so refreshing to see as an Auburn fan, because the lack of consistency, the lack of rhythm with an Auburn offense has been the case in the narrative for several seasons. And you do feel like Jackson has a presence about him. That was one of the first things that I was told when he was on campus, and specifically in the summer, that the guys were really gravitating toward him, that he had a leadership prowess about him. And unfortunately, in the day and age of transfer portal, you're not always going to get that. Even the position of a quarterback, which does come with the responsibility of leader, it has to. Some of these guys, unfortunately, go to these new universities and view it as a platform for themselves. And that doesn't always include the same pride of the logo or helping build chemistry with your teammates by taking them out to dinner. Like, I'm not seeing that as much anymore in my coverage. And the ones that still approach it that way are the ones that are finding success. You can't convince me that off the field chemistry doesn't matter on the field. Like, it very much does. We're seeing two sides of the coin. You can see UNC bringing 70 transfers in, and obviously it's not going to be a foolproof system, especially when you've got a coach with some of the difficulties that they're up against. Conversely, I covered Virginia this past weekend. They've got 54 new pieces, some transfers, some high school, but over 50 new pieces. And let me tell you, I could not even tell the chemistry that was on the sideline. It was a very close loss for them, but it's not a one-size-fits-all thing. And the same can be applied for a quarterback. I think a very talented quarterback could come into the right system, but focus solely on self, and it's going to crumble on the field. And I do think that Jackson has fully immersed the opportunity for him, and that includes the leadership and the chemistry piece of it. So for him to have that kind of unspoken connection with a guy like Cam, with Eric Singleton, it's going to pay dividends down the season, because you are going to, it is inevitable, we are going to be in one of those back against the wall situations. Clock is winding down. It's now or never. And those kinds of chemistry pieces will determine wins or losses. So the fact that we're seeing it early, again, just gives me a lot of encouragement.
They passed the eye test for me. Versus Baylor, they just looked like the more athletic team out there. They looked like the better team. Like matchup for matchup, Auburn just looked better. Versus Ball State, it was apparent, because Ball State could do anything on offense. And versus Oklahoma, they're going to get their true test. Where I want to go next with this is we have a hell of an opener to SEC play for Auburn, where there are a couple things are happening here. Number one, Auburn's going to Norman, Oklahoma for the first time in college football history. Number two, Jackson Arnold is squaring off against his old team to open SEC play. Brett Venables at Media Days was effusive in his praise for Jackson Arnold, saying, hey, look, none of the mess that we were last year was on Jackson. That's on us. Right. And you know what happened there. The O-line was hurt. The receiver, every single receiver got hurt. They fired the OC midseason. And now that he's in a better situation, Taylor, we have a chance to see potentially something very, very special. How special will it be in 2 weeks? That's the question we're going to answer next, right after a quick word from our sponsors, our friends at Amen Associates. Encourage our listeners to support our sponsors. That includes think I don't have enough money for a financial advisor, or maybe it hasn't crossed your mind at all. But the truth is, nearly everyone can benefit from financial guidance. The best part, no upfront costs. AIM and Associates offers an initial consultation so you can see if they're the right fit for your needs. It's not just about investing. It's about creating a plan that gives you flexibility and helps you build wealth over time for yourself and for your family. Call Abel's I Know More and Associates at 912-774-4128. Again, that's 912-777-4128, or visit AIMAINC.com. I'm confident you'll be glad you did. The War Report has been compensated by Abel's I Know More and Associates for this endorsement. AIM and Associates is a registered investment advisor. Registration as an investment advisor does not imply a certain level of skill or training. The information in this advertisement is for informational purposes only and should not be considered personalized investment advice. All investing involves risk, including the potential loss of principal, and past performance is not indicative of future results. Also want to thank our friends at Sky Tobacco. Need a smoke shop that's always close by? Sky Tobacco and Vape has you covered all over Columbus and even across the bridge in Phoenix City. Whether you're cruising down Airport Thruway or rolling up Victory Drive or making a pit stop on the bypass, we've got a spot ready for you. From vapes to tobacco and everything in between, Sky Tobacco Vape is your one-stop shop for good vibes and great deals. Swing through today. Chances are we're already on your way. Also want to thank our friends at the Rogue Shop. Visit rogueshop.com. Use code REPORT to get 15% off your Rogue Shop order. Pain, sleep, stress, anxiety, whatever ails you in life, the Rogue Shop has something that has you covered. We've got traditional problems. The Rogue Shop has maybe some non-traditional remedies there for you that could help you out quite a bit. Our guy Richard, longtime sponsor of the show, dropping a little something special in there for everybody using code REPORT today. Also want to thank our friends at SetsForSociety.ai. The road to knowing yourself better starts with Sets for Society. They have custom personality assessments that let you know a little bit more about how you think, how those around you think, so that you can be a better coworker, teammate, partner. Maybe you just got a project and you're trying to get on the same page with your team. Sets for Society can help you think together to achieve like goals. Visit SetsForSociety.ai to get your custom personality assessment started today. Get to know yourself with Sets for Society. Let's jump back into our conversation here, Taylor. The Auburn Tigers 2-0, but it's every conversation from now until the end of the season is going to come back to the success or failures of Jackson Arnold.
No pressure.
It's the way it's been at Auburn. I don't know how to say it. Whenever they found the quarterback, what struck me about that 2004 year was our listeners know this about me. I did coaches film for the football team. And so I either was filming sideline from the press box or I was on the scoreboard filming the end zone shot for the coaches.
Right.
One day I got the day off. They were like, Mike, take a break. And I said, okay, what? I'm going to use my student tickets. And I went to the student section and I lasted about one quarter there because I could not hear Jason Campbell sucks and he's a terrible quarterback one more time before I was going to start swinging. So I went back up to the press box with my pass and my boss was like, what are you doing up here? And I said, I can't watch any more of this, Brian. I can listen to these folks. They don't know what they're talking about.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Jason Campbell went on to have one of the most efficient seasons we've ever seen from an Auburn quarterback en route to an undefeated season. Yep. And he didn't throw the ball a ton. I mean, they had Ronnie at Cadillac, and I mean, it was a stacked backfield.
Seriously.
Since then, we've seen Cam Newton, we've seen Nick Marshall, we've seen Jarrett Stidham, we've seen Bo Nix. We've seen some pretty good Auburn quarterbacks come through that have gotten Auburn in the conversation. Could Jackson Arnold be the next in a great line of quarterbacks to get Auburn into the conversation? Well, 2004, they got left out. 2010, they won it all. 2013, oh my goodness. I don't know if you were in Pasadena, but I was there.
I wasn't. I was in Atlanta for the SEC title game, which was a blast, but I didn't win the lottery and get a ticket to the national championship. But I'm not going to lie, at 13 seconds left on the clock, when Kelvin Benjamin caught that touchdown pass, I was glad I wasn't in Pasadena at that moment because I couldn't have kept myself composed. So
my goodness. Yeah, I won the homie hookup lottery. We had a friend that was working in the Southeastern Conference offices. She got us tickets to that game at face value. But with a 12-team playoff, you don't even have to win the SEC anymore. You don't have to have a super magical season to get into competition for a championship. Now you just have to be one of those 10-win teams from the SEC. If they can beat Oklahoma, I'm calling it. If they win one of the first three, I think Auburn makes the college football playoff. That's just where I'm at. I think this talent, this quarterback. I think that the rest of the SEC messed up when they let Jackson Arnold get confident.
I
And
agree.
right, you look, you reference the TikTok dances. I hate them, but if that's his mojo, TikTok away, Jackson. Let's see it.
Last thing I'm gonna do is hate on whatever gets you in the right zone. All right, like have at it. But no, I think you're right, and I think for me, and it's subject to change as we learn more about some of these teams. I mean, some of the matchups this weekend are really interesting. Texas A&M, Notre Dame. I have a real interest in. Arkansas, Ole Miss. I don't know what it is about Arkansas. I just feel like they could end up being one of those sneaky, where the heck did this come from stories of the year. And Taylon Green is very efficient and a very good athlete. And I think T. Will is one of the best D coordinators in the country. So I think that no one's really paying attention to Arkansas, and you could end up regretting that halfway through the year. So, and look, Missouri had an impressive win against Kansas. And like you said, Bo Prabula is being very efficient, even though they were expecting to have Sam Horn this year. So there's still a lot we don't know, but based on what we know right now and what I'm seeing about Auburn, I think the Oklahoma game is going to be the toughest match. I think that's the one. I think that is the one that I'm not saying that you can't still go on and do a lot after it. I put so much weight on it if Auburn wins it, though. Like if Auburn goes into Norman with all of the noise and pomp and circumstance that's going to surround that game, it was announced it's going to be on ABC. Jackson returning to his former, place. John Mateer has all the hype of college football right now. I mean, he is one of the biggest names in college football right now. And after what he did against Michigan, he had 300 something of their 408 yards this past weekend. It was the Mateer show. Like if that becomes Auburn's coming out party, so to speak, in the SEC, this thing seriously goes to, this is a championship caliber team. I really think that Oklahoma matchup in that stretch of the SEC, I'm a little confused on what's happening with Georgia right now. Not going to lie. I'm not saying that they're not going to go on, but like, where's the offense? Where's the rhythm? You're about to go into Knoxville, and Joey Aguilar actually looks like he has rhythm and consistency. Yeah. So I'm actually highlighting this Norman one. But here's the thing, Mike, and you know as well as I do, the worst thing Auburn can be doing right now is talking about that Oklahoma game, because South Alabama, it is much better than Ball State. And there is no world in which you should end up with a loss. But it is a mind game in college football in weeks like this. You do everything that you need to do to get the win, and then we'll figure out the Oklahoma matchup. But for fans and media, in the landscape of this season and everything that Auburn could potentially accomplish, a win week 4 in Norman, that's going to be one of the biggest statements of the season.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Look, you win in Norman, we start to get into, I think, after Georgia, any loss after Georgia, if you win in Norman, is going to feel like an extreme disappointment, because this team is capable of winning those games. Now, totally I called that before the season started, but certainly a win in Norman raises those expectations. Now, Hugh Freeze said he's okay with expectations because it means that they've given people something to expect.
Sure.
And I could not agree with that statement more. He's got a different, I don't want to call it swagger, but he's got a different, aura about him these days. When I run into Coach Freeze, he seems happy and smiling. And, I think he thinks that he's got a really good football team on his hands, and he's ready to prove a lot of people wrong. Now, you mentioned that SEC slate this weekend. We do have some really intriguing matchups. Oklahoma, who is Auburn's first SEC opponent, plays Temple, but we get Alabama, Wisconsin, Georgia, and Tennessee. As you mentioned, it's a quarterback's league these days, and I think questions persist with Georgia at quarterback, whereas they've not had those questions in the past. And now that you do, you know that the talent around him is as 5-star as it could be. But without dynamic quarterback play, it's really, really difficult. We also, as you mentioned, sneaky good matchup with Ole Miss and Arkansas. I'm all for anything that sees Lane Kiffin losing. I am a certified Lane hater. We get Florida, LSU. You mentioned Texas A&M, Notre Dame, and then what could be another sneaky good matchup: South
Say it.
Carolina and Vanderbilt.
Let's go.
Yes.
Let's go.
Yeah, I love this slate of games this weekend. We should learn more about what this conference is and
Agreed.
where Auburn fits in the pantheon of great teams this season.
Yeah.
Look, South Alabama is going to be a fun one. I'll be in the press box for that one. But Taylor, give me how do you see this one going before we get out of here? Tell me how you see this one playing out for Auburn.
Yeah, honestly, I think that you got a really good opportunity this past week. What was it? 14 freshmen ended up working into the depth chart. Like there was some really good opportunity to kind of get some of your younger guys' confidence. I think we're seeing the development of some guys. I think Kieran Crawford is setting up to have a great year. Obviously, what's going on with Champ Anthony is a bummer, and so you hope that some of that develops. Same thing with you. It's a fine balance because I do think that South Alabama had Tulane on the ropes. I think that one was 33-31 last week. They had 421 yards of offense. Our defense is going to have to play a good game against them. They're sneaky. I don't think that this is one that you relax on by any means. I also don't know that we're going to see as many backups and third strings in this game as we did at Ball State. Now, in the same vein, I don't want to see Damari Alston. I don't want to see some of these guys that are right on the cusp. Because while you pay respect to the opponent in front of you and realize that anything could happen, there is just a logical difference in a home game versus South Alabama versus a road test with Oklahoma. You need everyone in the best possible shape that they can be in. And so if a Damari Alston is right on the cusp, I don't want to risk it. Absolutely not. Keep him on the side. And what happened with Darrell is confusing and disappointing, but thank goodness Jeremiah Cobb didn't hit the transfer portal because he very well could have. And now this is why depth is so important, because you're in these situations where, and I do think that you could see Alvin. I mean, it could be one of the 4 games that he plays in. I think that they will run the ball. I mean, there's also been a little bit of issue in protection. I would like to see that increase. And some of these younger backs that I do anticipate are going to get a lot of playing time this week, I want to see them improve in pass protection. I don't think pass pro is always the top priority of your 3rd, 4th, 5th string back. It's imperative that that's a part of it. And so I want to see things like that get gelled out. And maybe it's the small fine-tuning details. Once this game gets comfortable, you really want to see some of those take strides. I would love to see more explosive passes hit in this game if the opportunity presents itself for you, and continue to spread the ball out. I think 4 different receivers caught at least 4 passes. So let's continue to build that rhythm and gel a little bit. The guys that are right on the edge of injury, let them have the week. And I want to see continued spark from Jackson Arnold. I would love to see a few more interceptions, because that's one thing about Mateer that I noticed. His sidearm thing that so many of these quarterbacks want to do these days, which go off, do your thing, whatever. And they all want to be Pat Mahomes and have that kind of, and a lot of them with baseball background, that is kind of just their natural. There were 3 tipped balls for them against Michigan from his sidearm release. Now, Michigan didn't capitalize and end up with turnovers, but these balls are being batted up into the air. If Auburn has an advantageous defense and can force some turnovers with John Mateer, I automatically think that shifts some momentum in this game, and then continue run the ball, do whatever you can to move downfield. But if the defense can come up with things like that, that is one thing about his game that I think could end up getting him in trouble. So I think that the defense needs to play a stout game. I wouldn't be mad if this game is quick. Let's, run the clock. Let's get it going. But things like that, let's use this as another opportunity to play disciplined, consistent football, because come next week, it's going to have to be the best game you've played so far.
Could not agree more. Couple here. This is the number 1 rush defense in the league as of today. They've allowed only 30.5 yards per game, -3 yards rushing versus Ball State, only 65 yards allowed versus Baylor last week. But they did face off against Sawyer Robertson, who passed for a ton, so it doesn't look great.
The passing defense was not great.
Maybe a little validation, because he went out versus SMU and threw for even more yards. So
absolutely,
he's a good quarterback. But Auburn is a great team potentially, and we're looking forward to seeing what the Tigers do. Taylor Davis, sideline reporter for ESPN. Before we get out of here, you're a busy girl these days. Tell everybody where they can find you this week, and you got a new podcast here.
Oh, I do, and I can't talk about it enough. Jason Campbell and I, who we were just speaking about, Auburn great, Auburn legend. He and I do a weekly podcast. It's also on YouTube. It is called SEC State of Mind. You can search us on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. We do episodes every Tuesday. We actually have an exciting guest lined up for next week to do an interview and talk a little ball with us. So you're going to want to tune in for that. And you can find me across all social media platforms at Taylor Beth Davis. I have to use my full name because it's a very common first and last name at Taylor Beth Davis, and across ESPN's college football season everywhere, which is fun.
What game are you covering this week?
So actually this weekend, and I would love to give her a shout out because she is watching everything, a relative / best friend, literally from the day I was born, is getting married this weekend. And typically I am anti-fall weddings, and she knows that, but there were other factors at play, and she's getting married this week. So I will be with all of my family watching her get married, and it'll be a very special weekend. So not on football coverage this weekend, but every week after that.
Well, I know this must be somebody very special if you're going to a fall wedding, the cardinal sin in the South.
Facts.
No.
Oh, I gave her
weddings.
I gave her hell for it. Don't worry.
Guys, that's it for another great edition of the Auburn Express, powered by the War Report, brought to you by friends at Golden's Cast Iron. Visit goldenscastiron.com/WR. Use the codes on the screen to get your grills or your weights to stay in shape or just eat great with Golden's Cast Iron. Work out, grill out, chill out with Golden's Cast Iron. Hit the comments after the video and let us know what you think about Auburn's matchup with South Alabama this weekend. And is this the best version of Jackson Arnold that you've seen so far? We want to hear from you. While you're there, smash that super thanks button. Your financial support helps keep the work that we're doing here going. We are the War Report on every social media platform, so please hit like and subscribe. We are TW Report on TikTok. We're signing off, and as always, War Eagle.